The Harvest Show, where faith makes a world of difference.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Harvest. Hey, Pete Deison lived an ordinary life when tragedy struck. The author opens up about how he overcame grief with comfort from the other side, and refugees continue to flee for their lives in the wake of a car bomb attack in Syria. Brian Bush is in Jerusalem with the latest news. Brian will also join us a little later on in the show with an update on Easter in the Holy Land. Speaking of Easter, how was yours, Stephen?
It was wonderful. It was a great day. Great celebration in the morning in church, and then a good meal with my immediate family, in calling our extended families to talk and wish one another a happy Resurrection Day. And the weather was great here too, so it was just a wonderful day all the way around.
Now, did you do an early morning sunrise service, or did you go to the regular worship service?
Regular morning service.
Okay,
yes,
yeah. I had a great Resurrection Sunday. I did a mid-afternoon service. Never done that before.
Mid-afternoon.
A mid-afternoon service, and there was a great worship service with my family, of course, in Orlando. And I don't have to tell you that the weather was great there, like, I don't know, in the 80s.
So did other family members come on down, your sisters? Or?
No, my sister typically stays in New York, because she has family there as well. And this, my Resurrection weekend or Easter weekend was, especially really special because, as I told you, my daughter, after all of these years of asking you guys to pray for my daughter, Faith, she passed the bar on her first time taking it. And there are her classmates, the new lawyers there. The girl in there, she is. There she is. She took the Florida bar exam and passed it on her first time taking it.
On the first time?
Yes.
Good for her.
We call it one and done. And she's there with 17 other lawyers, so 18 lawyers took the test.
That is fantastic.
And passed it. So
they looked a lot older than she did, though. They might have been there before.
Well, actually, lawyers, in her class, she was there with different age groups. She said there was a medical doctor in her class.
Getting his law degree.
Yes, getting his law degree. So people come from all walks of life there at the Florida A&M University College of Law. So,
good job, Mama.
Thank you so much. And what's going on with Feed the Hungry?
Right now, we're actually involved in a kind of a Macedonian call. A few weeks ago, got a call from our friends Mercy and Sharing Now Haiti Children down in the nation of Haiti. The Canadian ambassador introduced them to a situation that's happening in the federal penitentiary in Haiti, which is the most overcrowded prison in the world. Of the 4,200 something men, it's only built for like 800 people, about 90% are awaiting trial, some of them up to 11 years in jail without a trial. And unfortunately, there's been a rash of deaths because of malnutrition and hunger-related diseases. And so she saw this and put a call out, and Feed the Hungry responded. We started a meal service, a daily meal service to the men in prison this Easter Sunday, yesterday.
Really?
And church services each week now, and going to have a daily meal for them, and get some other partners involved to provide good ministry so those men can have a sense of hope and comfort, and the fact that even though the nation and the system may have abandoned them, God has not, and He can redeem their lives right where they're at.
That's right. Thanks, Stephen, for that update. Feed the Hungry, doing some great things in the world. Hey, we want to know your thoughts. You can hit us up on Facebook and Twitter and send your emails directly to the Set of Harvest at live@LeSEA.com. World News is next.
With this check on world news for April 17, 2017, I'm Bob Nagel in for Chuck Freebie. Dozens of people have been injured in anti-India protests and clashes between Kashmiri students and government forces in the disputed Himalayan region. The clashes on Monday began in the region's key city of Srinagar when hundreds of college students took to the streets to protest a police raid in a college in southern Pawama town over the weekend, in which 50 students were injured. The protest soon spread to several colleges in Srinagar and other parts of Kashmir, leading to pitched battles between rock-throwing students and government forces firing shotgun pellets and tear gas. The anger in the region has been growing since April 9th, when 8 people were killed by government troops on a polling day for India's parliament seat. Government troops continue to battle for control of the Islamic State group held positions in western Mosul on Monday. Footage from the area shows huge plumes of smoke rising above the skyline of the old town. The Islamic State extremists who took over the city in 2014 were driven out of eastern Mosul in January by Iraq's elite counterterrorism forces. Much of the fighting in western Mosul has been done by heavily militarized federal police forces. Over 2,600 people have been killed or wounded in the fighting over the past few months, many of them civilians. The Syrian army and its affiliated forces said it'd carry out an attack on al-Nusra Front and its affiliated groups in Surin town in northern Hama countryside on Sunday. The Syrian Central Military Media released videos showing the ongoing fighting. Sources said the army units and their supporting sources were operating against al-Nusra Front posts. A number of the militants have been killed or wounded, and reports say that Surin is now under army control. A German Navy ship with more than 1,000 migrants rescued off the coast of Libya on Sunday has arrived at a port on the Italian island of Sicily. The rescued migrants were brought into the port of Catania on Monday aboard the FGS Rhine. So far this year, some 29,000 migrants, most of them fleeing poverty in sub-Saharan Africa, have arrived in Italy after being rescued by European military ships or private charity organizations. Those numbers are expected to rise with the warmer spring weather. United States Vice President Mike Pence has visited a military base near the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea. Pence arrived at Camp Boniface on Monday for a briefing with the military leaders and to meet with American troops stationed there. The joint U.S.-South Korean military camp is just outside the demilitarized zone. Pence's visit, full of Cold War symbolism, comes amid increasing tensions and heated rhetoric in the Korean peninsula. Pence is on a 10-day tour of Asia. And that's a check on world news. I'm Bob Nagel. Coming up later, Pastor Mark Lance with today's motivational message. But up next, Pete Deison shares how he overcame grief with comfort from the other side. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Stefan Radulich with Feed the Hungry, and I want to encourage you to become a Full Life Monthly partner today. Why is that so important? Well, because children like these children at the Kiryandongo refugee camp come to school every day for a hot meal. For all of these kids, this is the best meal they're going to have. For many of them, it might be the only meal that they have on a given day of any month. Because of your monthly support, we can make a monthly commitment to schools like this. It takes $6 a month to take care of one child. So maybe today you can make that $6 a month commitment, or $12 or $18. Or maybe you can make a commitment of $30 or $60. And for doing that, I want to say thank you and God bless you.
Please act now. These children need your encouragement. They need to know they are not alone. Please call 1-877-769-9270 or visit feedthehungry.org to help a child know how good a full life feels.
Pete and Harriet Deison were enjoying a full life, being parents, grandparents, and partners in ministry when deep depression spiraled Harriet into a darkness that caused her to take her own life. Reverend Pete Deison is here today to share the story and the comfort that he received with visits from heaven. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Thank you.
And we've heard many reports about visits to heaven, but not a whole lot about visits from heaven. And so this story really begins with the unfortunate surroundings that, you know, your wife went through this deep depression and wound up taking her life. That must have been an awful, awful day.
It was a very difficult time. She had had a history in her family of depression from that. You know, there are different kinds of depression, but her grandmother had it, her father had it, and what have you. But she managed it most of her life. The doctors had given her good medication, and she managed it well. But right there at the end, she began to complain to me. She said, you know, these medicines aren't helping me as much as they used to, and it became a very rapid
descent.
And she died. So,
wow. Now, as a minister, you work with Campus Crusade, right, now called Cru. Successfully pastoring churches for many years. You've dealt with this, I'm sure, you know, the issues of grief and navigating grief throughout your course of ministry. But you know, you had to find your own way. What was that like?
Well, first of all, I had to work through, you know, the issues of her death, and God was very gracious in that. And the first thing that He helped me with was to realize that I could trust Him with the fact that that God is the one who allows people to have certain conditions in their life. He's sovereign, and I had to trust that sovereignty. And then I had to realize He's still good, and I had to trust Him with the goodness of it. And once I began to settle that, that's when I began to have some peace about her death, but that's what got me curious about her life, and the fact that, well, she's not really gone, she's just in another place. And so I went to a theological library, and I found a whole section of books on heaven. And I pulled off 50 different books, read every single one of them, and realized there's a lot here that the Christian world doesn't really ever talk too much about.
So what did you discover? What are some of the things that helped you through this ordeal?
Right. Well, and let me say, as I was reading them, some dreams began to come to me, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But what I discovered is the truth that heaven is actually a literal place. It's a real place. Jesus didn't say, I go to prepare some ethereal, you know, drift in clouds type place. He said, no, I go to prepare a place for you. And the word is topos that He uses, which is topography, you know. And He has a body now. He ascended with a body. He's sitting in heaven on a real throne. So there's a real place. That was very helpful to think about. And then the continuity of life, that life continues. We still are who we are. We don't become something different. We don't become omniscient. We're not God, so we're still learning. My belief is we'll still study the Bible when we get to heaven, and I'm looking forward to that.
Now, Pete, these dreams that you started to have, what were they? What were they like, and what do they mean?
Well, the first thing I had to realize was that the dream that I had about her was so vivid, and I had never been much of a dreamer before, or at least that I remembered. And this was a dream that, to this day, you know, almost 4.5 years later, I can recount every single detail of it. And they started coming periodically at times when I was really seeking and searching the Lord. And those were extremely, you know, powerful, helpful things to me. One dream, for example, was I dreamed that we were in an old house that we used to live in when we first got married. And she came in the door and she handed me a vacuum cleaner, which was one of my old tasks, so to speak. And it was as if she was saying to me, Pete, it is now time for you to begin to get on with life. And the meaning of them just became very clear every time I thought about these dreams.
How many would you say? I mean, was it happening frequently for you, or just every now and then, or when something in your heart became heavy?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Since that time, I've had well over 100 dreams. I started writing them down, you know, this stuff. But what really got my attention was the dreams made me aware of her presence in heaven. And I began to wonder, does she aware of me? You know, does she have can she hear me in any way and stuff? And it was about this time that a good friend of mine called me up and said, Pete, the doctors have told me that cancer has returned. It's pretty bad, and I have about a month to live. Would you do my funeral? And I said, yes, Mark, I will. And so I went down to the hospital to see him. And as I walked in the room, Mark had grown up in the same town in Dallas, and he knew Harriet. I said, you know, Mark, I said, let's talk about a funeral. We did that. And I said, now I have a question for you. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, when you get to heaven, I want you to find Harriet. I want you to tell her how much I love her and miss her. And then tell her that I'm wondering if she's really aware of me down here and can she hear me or whatever. I don't think she's allowed to tell me, but would you have her ask Jesus if he would tell me?
Mm-hmm. So a little game of phone tag there.
That's right. That's right. So, any rate, I did the funeral, and time went on, and literally within weeks, another friend called and said, "You remember my sister? That she's been battling cancer." "Yes, I do." And I said, the doctor says she has about a month to 6 weeks to live. Would you do her funeral? I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So I went, and about this time, reading in the scriptures, I'm reading in Revelation where it speaks of how the saints in heaven pray. The prayers, you know, the bowls of prayer that are under the altar and stuff, and it's mentioned 3 or 4 times about the saints' prayers. And I thought, wow, you know, Harriet prayed for me every day on earth, so Lord, could she still be my prayer partner? And would you have her pray for this friend whose sister is dying, because I don't really know where her sister is spiritually. And so time went by, I did the funeral, and about 2 weeks after the funeral, this friend called me up. She said, "Pete, I've got to tell you something." She said, "Last night I was crying over my sister's death," and she said, "I had a dream." And she said, "And Harriet came to see me in the dream." And she handed me a yellow piece of paper with some questions on it and your name written at the bottom as if I should come and talk to you about it. And she said she was so encouraging to me. And that was Harriet's spiritual gift, was encouragement. Well, I started smiling when she said that. I thought, wow, you know, Lord, are you answering that prayer that I, you know, was wanting to know? And I said, but I don't want to just assume. So could you give me another example? Well, 5 days later, another lady came to my office who we'd been praying for back during this time, and she'd had brain surgery. And it was very serious, but she came through very well. And I saw her, and I said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad that you're doing better." And she said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "And I'm so glad you asked me," because she said, "I've been meaning to tell you." She said, "I had this dream about Harriet." And I said, "Really?" Well, I almost started to smile because I was beginning to think, I think I know what she's going to tell me. And she said, "I came up here to the church looking for you, or the pastors," and she said, "I couldn't find anybody, so I went over into the sanctuary, sat down in the darkened sanctuary looking at the stained glass windows," and she said, "The door opened and Harriet walked in. Walked up, sat down beside me and said, 'I'll listen to you, sweetheart,' and just started encouraging me." Well, my grief went from like a 10 to a 4. I mean, just, wow, she's alive, she's answering prayers, you know, the Lord's letting her, you know, encourage other people in these dreams. And so that's what convinced me, and people started saying, would you write about this? And I had one request. I said, well, Lord, if you want me to do this, would you give me some more examples? And 5 more people came and told me about dreams they'd had about Harriet.
Wow. Wow. We're going to talk some more with Pete Deison on another program, but to connect with Pete, you can go to Visits from Heaven, and here's a testimony. Or you can go to our website, as always, harvest-tv.com, for an easy way to link to Visits from Heaven. Still to come, Brian Bush with the latest news from Israel, but up next, Pastor Mark Lance with today's motivational message. We'll be right back.
We know you're working daily to make healthy choices for your life and the life of your loved ones. MHC Life is here to help you with those choices by offering supplements and materials that maximize your personal health and total well-being. Restore and reset your digestive system with the MHC Restoration Pack, full of prebiotics, probiotics, and vitamins. Order today and get 35% off plus free shipping. Visit MHCLife.com or call 1-800-965-2345. Enhance your total health today, mind, body, and spirit with MHC Life.
Do you long to visit the Holy Land but don't want to travel alone? On a LeSEA tour to Israel, you're not alone. Our team of professionals has more than 50 years' experience bringing Christians together in the fascinating land of the Bible. You and your new friends will worship together as you sail the Sea of Galilee, break bread in the Garden Tomb, and get baptized in the Jordan River, just like Jesus and the disciples did more than 2,000 years ago. What better way to experience the sights and sounds of ancient Jerusalem than with other believers from around the world? To join us for a life-changing trip to Israel November 8th through 17th, 2017, go online to LeSEAtours.com or call 1-800-685-3732. Tell the operator to send you a free information packet today, but seats are limited, so don't wait. Call now. Just one visit to the Holy Land and your faith will never be the same.
We all know that the Bible says, "Thou shalt not lie." It's one of the 10 commandments. So my question is, why do you keep lying? Now, I know you're going to say, "Pastor, I would never lie. I don't lie to my boss. I don't lie to my spouse. I don't lie to my parents," and maybe you don't. But you see, the worst person that you can lie to is yourself. There's too many people who live every day seeing things they would like to achieve, goals they would like to reach, but then they tell themselves, "Well, I could never do that. I'm not good enough. I could never make that much money. I'm not smart enough," or "I could never fit into that dress. I don't have the willpower to lose the weight." Well, let me ask you a question. Who told you that you're not smart enough? Who said that you're not good enough? Who said that you're not strong enough? You see, friend, you are telling yourself a lie. And if I read my Bible correctly, it still says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So on this Motivational Monday, stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself that you're not good enough when in reality you are. If you just set your mind to it, start telling yourself the truth. And on this Monday, live in truth. Stop lying. Start walking in what you know and do what you know you're capable of doing.
Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way, by taking heed to thy word. LeSEA Broadcasting is dedicated to getting thousands of free Bibles into the hands of young people around the world this year. Will you help? Call 1-800-365-3732 today.
Hello, everybody. Happy Easter to you all, but the situation here in the Middle East isn't so pleasant. An attack on Syrian evacuees in the so-called four-town swap arrangement claimed the lives of at least 126 people, 68 of whom were children. Scores of people were wounded. Most of those hurt were Shia Muslims. A car bomb rammed buses at a checkpoint outside of Aleppo, where the evacuees were due to transfer. Turks have handed their President Recep Tayyip Erdogan his desired constitutional changes that will grant him sweeping powers of governance. Opposition groups are contesting the results. They're seeking a recount on 60% of the vote. President Erdogan hailed the win in what he said was a clear majority in his favor, with exit polls narrowly giving him the advantage. Mr. Erdogan now could potentially stay in power until 2029. Torrential rains have claimed the lives of over 30 people as flooding hit northwestern Iran. That number is set to rise because many in the provinces hardest hit are still missing. Flash floods have made streets into rivers, sweeping cars away, and reports have come in of landslides taking place. And lastly, the shadow of the Palm Sunday attacks on Coptic Christians in Egypt was present both in Egypt as well as throughout most of the Middle East during Easter celebrations. The hashtag Stop Human Bloodshed has been started. Security was extra tight here in Israel, with many pilgrims and Arab visitors not being allowed entrance into the Old City on Saturday for the Orthodox observance of Holy Saturday celebrations at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the traditional place of Christ's resurrection. Friends, the Harvest Show continues right after this.
Got Facebook? Follow The Harvest Show.
Comment and share your opinions on current events.
See new after the show guest interviews.
Watch my updates and inspiration from Israel exclusively for Facebook.
Facebook.com/The Harvest Show. Like us today. And our prayer line number, 1-800-365-3732. Love for you to call us anytime of the day or night. We've got great volunteers and staff manning those lines. Prayer@LeSEA.com is the email address. When you send in your email prayer request or praise report, our folks will take a read through that, take some time with it, and respond back to you as well. And if you'd like to write, well, we had our screen address up there, but you know it's 61300 Ironwood Road in South Bend, Indiana, 46614. And today, especially in light of our guest, Pete Deison, visits from heaven. If you are in a place of grief where maybe you've lost a loved one recently and you're just trying to find your way through that place, you know, there is light, there is life, and it comes through Christ. And I want to pray with you specifically today. So if that is you, give us a call, 1-800-365-3732, and let's pray together. Thanks for joining us on Harvest. We'll see you tomorrow.
When Jesus gave his great commission to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, he was not just speaking to his disciples, he was speaking to you and me. Through the outreaches of LeSEA Broadcasting's television, shortwave radio, free Bible distribution, and prayer line, souls come to faith and are saved every day. As a financial partner with LeSEA Broadcasting, you too will be investing into the lives of men, women, and children as we proclaim God's word around the world together. LeSEA Broadcasting Partners in Faith make it possible for millions to hear the Word of God in over 190 countries. You can be a partner in faith with us for as little as a monthly gift of $25. Your gifts help LeSEA Broadcasting bring life, hope, and love into a dark world. Call 1-800-365-3732 and tell the prayer operator you want to be a partner in faith. That's 1-800-365-3732. Be a part of the Great Commission.
That there's a place full of loved ones' photos that gets prayed for regularly. Prayer offers a direct line to God, so who couldn't use a little more of it? Getting yourself or your loved ones on this wall is as easy as click and send. The chapel at LeSEA Prayer Line has a wall of love that's waiting to be filled up. Just email your pictures to prayer@lesea.com. That's it. Our chapel has been a focal point for prayer for the last 18 years. Let our prayer team pray for you.
The Harvest Show is produced by LeSEA Broadcasting and is viewer supported by people just like you. Thank you for inviting us into your home today.